Okay, so metal.
Metal.
The show's about metal.
What is metal? We're going to spread the hidden value in music.
We're going to proselytize. We're going to get the word out there.
We are.
That's important.
And just like that, we are back. GMP, Great Metal Podcast, episode 48. You are here with Shredmaster Scott, Just Pete, and the Metal Evangelist Luke. Today, guys, we're going to peel back that onion. You know, there was a time when metal was shaping up to be the definitive genre of music. It was everywhere. Everybody loved it.
Ruled the world with an iron fist.
It really did, man. It came on like a hurricane in the 80s. I mean, it started growing in the 70s.
It
and
rocked us like a hurricane, Luke.
That's right. Scorpions, man.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and then, you know, like, I don't know what happened. We lost our way, you know, I mean, grunge and hip hop started. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, it's like Justin Bieber is, you know, the pop music, and it's no longer, you know, Pantera.
We're going to show the good people back to metal. Let's get back on track here, guys.
Yeah. Well, so what we want to do today is we want to explore some like moments where metal was really, you know, it was defining pop culture. And then, you know, maybe a different episode's gonna focus on like what happened to, you know, have it go underground. Because I mean, ultimately, the nature of metal being controversial and the nature of metal is to be underground, right? It doesn't want the spotlight on it necessarily all the time. And it's not flashy like hip hop is. Hip hop is all about showing the flex, right? Look at all my cars and, you know, look at my mansion, my crib, you know. Metal's not like that. And
not all metal. Yngwie J. Malmsteen's pretty flashy. He drives a Ferrari. You seen all this bling, all this ice on his hands?
That is true.
I don't even know how he shreds with all those Rolexes and chains and shit.
But no donuts.
Yeah, just don't feed the man donuts, for God's sakes. I don't know why people can't get this. You know?
Yeah,
donuts are disgusting.
I just had my first donut, full donut. I ate an entire donut just yesterday.
Look, what are you doing, bro?
I was on my way to hike a volcano, and I was like, I need some extra energy. So we stopped at a bakery, and I ate a donut. So I don't know.
Don't let Yngwie see. Don't let him see that you did that.
I should follow Yngwie along. I'll just hoover all of his donuts so he doesn't have to eat them, you know?
Hoover them right in, yeah.
Yeah. So
anyway, so how do we get started with this topic? There's so many good selections.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's go back to one of the earliest examples, 1984. So the whole like 80s metal scene was really taking off. You know, you had guys like Poison and Van Halen that were really starting to come up.
Called 1984 in that year.
They did. Yeah. And that's what spurred this movie. So this mockumentary was made, 1984 was when it was released, called This Is Spinal Tap. And it became this, you know, it got this big cult following going. Wow, and it was all about this, you know, rock and roll band. And it was like the behind the scenes of what's going on. So let's check out one of the most iconic scenes from This Is Spinal Tap.
The top to, you know, what we use on stage, but it's very, very special because if you can see, the numbers all go to 11. Look, right across the board. 11, 11,
and most of
11,
the amps go up to 10.
Exactly.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it? It's not 10. You see, most blokes, you know, be playing at 10. You're on 10 here, all the way up, all the way up, all the way up. You're on 10 on your guitar. Where can you go from there? Where?
I don't know.
Nowhere, exactly. What we do is if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly. One louder.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
Yeah,
It's like, don't you get it? It's
He
one
was
louder.
struggling.
Yeah.
Struggling.
No,
to
it's a
get
simple
there.
concept. It's
Yeah.
11 is louder than 10. I mean,
Yeah.
that's it.
More
Yeah.
is more,
Dude,
as Yngwie
More is
says.
more.
More is
That
more.
that movie Spinal Tap is just like it's still today so relevant. You know, the Sastival keys,
Yeah.
D minor.
Yeah.
You know, it's just the big bottoms. You know, there's
Yep.
so many like just pieces of just memetics. You know, meme culture that get used from that.
I love
And those
that
boys,
they-
I heard, didn't even get paid much. You know, the actors, they got totally screwed. Nigel,
Well,
and everyone else. Yeah,
I mean, it was
too
also
bad.
like a cult film, right? So it that's the nature of it. Nobody knows if it's gonna hit or not. But they also were like a legit band, right? I mean, it's funny you make like a mock band, but they were all playing, from what I understand.
Oh yeah, no, they
yeah.
could play.
And so it's
Oh.
like that's epic because and you know, that's not the first mock band that kind of turned into a band. You know, I think we have some other other things on here as well that in that realm.
You know, and it's like
We
if
do.
you're a band getting started today, look at Spinal Tap as like the archetype. You have to influence culture, you know, as well as play good music. Basically, is the point. So
So it's entertainment, you know. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
they were
entertainment.
based around humor, but the
Mhm.
humor opened it up to a wider audience that maybe wasn't listening to that type of music, or was, and you know, gave them
Yeah.
a shot because of the humor. It was different. Whereas as
Yeah.
a band, they probably wouldn't have taken off just on their own.
Yeah, and you know, I think that
Right.
some people, you know, maybe see this as mocking metal culture, but it's really not. I mean, metal until you get to black metal, a lot of metal doesn't take itself too seriously, right?
Black metal.
Now black metal takes itself pretty seriously, but a lot of like the 80s metal stuff in particular, I mean, glam metal and hair metal, I mean, David Lee Roth doing high kicks, you know, I mean, this is
Killing it.
meant to be fun, right?
Mm.
It's,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
meant to be a good time. So
Yeah.
humor plays into that. So Spinal Tap, I mean, I would venture to say that Spinal Tap today is quite well known.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, for
it
sure.
became a very, very powerful cultural force. And so metal, man, and it wouldn't have been the same. They have made a couple movies like within the last 20 years about like fake pop star groups. I can't remember, the one had like Jamie Kennedy in it or something. And those just, you know, don't do nearly as well. Josie and the Pussycats was another one. Those movies just
Yeah.
don't do as well. But this one really, really did, because metal is such an interesting culture.
It was all because of the metal.
It's the
Yeah.
metal, man. Yeah.
Damn.
So, so Spinal Tap, they went to 11. Great moment in pop culture. So then, you know, let's fast forward a little bit into I think it was the end of the 90s or 80s, 89. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. That was 1989, right?
It was somewhere around there, 88,
Yeah.
89, something like that.
Yeah. And so again, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a lot of people that have never heard of Bill and Ted. You know, and they just had their third one come out here a year or two ago.
Yeah.
But back in 1988, 89, whenever the original one came out, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, it was all about these two teenage metalheads who wanted to start a metal band called Wild Stallions. And then, of course, you know, the story, they have to go back in time to get historical figures in order to pass their tests so they don't get sent off to military school or something like that.
And it has this
Um,
classical tie-in. Now that I'm thinking about it, right? Because then they
Oh,
bring
very
back like
much.
Mozart and Beethoven or something.
Yeah.
Well,
And so
what's
it's
interesting
like
is
that neoclassical metal
We're
angle.
going to see some of that, I think.
this was literally probably the first time that the larger sphere of the United States had heard neoclassical metal. And this is actually played by the band Extreme.
Oh.
I actually, when I
Yeah.
heard it, I thought it maybe was Yngwie Malmsteen, but it's not.
Well,
It's the band
actually,
I thought
Extreme.
that too.
Well, actually, I know Steve Vai does a lot of the sound effects, like when they're like, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's Steve Vai playing those licks.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there's
Yeah.
Steve Vai. Well, so here's the one of the most famous scenes in the movie. This is the mall scene when all of the historical figures are in the modern day mall and they get into a whole bunch of trouble. Set to Extreme playing a Mozart piece, but in the movie, it's Beethoven playing it, which I think is a fun little aside.
Yeah.
So let's check out the mall scene from Bill and Ted.
I need the Lincoln hat and the stupid beard's back.
You don't understand. I'm Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, right. Ha ha ha.
Now, come on, mister.
Kid just wants to rock.
Yeah.
Joe Bar. Is that who that was?
Yeah. Genghis Khan.
Yeah. I thought this was Ingve the first time I saw it too. He just got that, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
Now, what is on his music stand when it cuts back to him?
Pardon me.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't even notice.
Just take a peek
Don't get
there.
smart with me, buddy. Let's go.
You see it?
It's like obviously
yellow?
guitar playing.
Right, it is. Yeah,
He's playing like an organ, but it's a guitar with a wah wah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
the
like
pot.
bait.
Look at that. Look at that. Doesn't that look just like a dick coming off his music stand? Like a dildo?
Where? I don't even see what you're
the,
talking
like
the
to the
yellow,
left of his
the yellow
head.
thing
Pete, are
sticking
you-
up out.
Right under.
you
I
just-
think it's a-
Zeller.
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah.
I think it's
What
supposed to be
is
like a piece of sheet music, maybe.
Wow. Yeah, it does.
I
look
don't know.
kinda phallic.
Anyway. Got a little bit of a Trans-Siberian Orchestra vibe too.
Yeah.
Focus.
And then, oh no.
You're
Oh
busted,
yeah.
Beethoven.
You know,
Oh.
Extreme, like I always, when I hear Extreme, I think of that song More Than Words, which is like just like a slow acoustic piece, you know, just a single guitar and the guy singing. But they could really shred, man. And so
Well,
that was
I think
an
that's
interpretation of
Nuno-
a Mozart. Yeah, it's Nuno Betancourt.
Nuno
yeah.
Betancourt. Yeah, he's a bona fide shredder for sure. Well, it started off as Ronda alla Turca, which is a Mozart piece, but then I think they just sort of made something up there.
Yeah,
So it's,
the name of that song is "Play with Me." I think it's like, "Do you wanna play?" But then, yeah, I think right. They're like throwing in some of that neoclassical,
Which is the
passage.
whole idea. That's the whole idea of neoclassical is this fusion, of classical music and metal. So, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean,
cool
bet you
concept.
most of, particularly like the United States, had not heard of Yngwie Malmsteen back in 1989. So all of a sudden, here
No.
comes this movie out, and this was like a big popular movie, and then they're like getting smashed in the face with some neoclassical metal. That's freaking awesome, man. And I would venture to say the reason why that movie was popular because of the metal.
It's
That's
the
what-
contrast, it's such a cool thing because it's like classical music you think of as kind of whatever, soft and polite and proper, and then metal just
Yeah.
breaks all the rules and is aggressive and in your face. So when you put
Yeah.
those two things together, it's fun. It's just a fun combination.
Oh, it's so fun. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, so metal, I mean, now the end of the 80s, right? I mean, we're getting to where like metal's about to die, right? Out of like the mainstream, and grunge is about to take over in the early 90s. Now they don't know it yet, but throughout the 90s,
the metal into your movies once you get past that point.
Oh man,
well, we did have something in the early 90s, right? I think I know where we're going.
They sure
next.
did. Yeah. Oh yeah, well we had several.
We're talking about some large neck girth individuals.
That's one of them. So Ace Ventura. So Jim Carrey actually got his start on this show called In Living Color, which was like a sketch comedy show in the 80s, the Wayans brothers.
Yeah.
It was kind of like Saturday Night Live a little bit, right?
Yeah, totally. And then, but his big break came with this movie, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. It was his first lead in a movie. And at the time, apparently Jim Carrey was big into bands like Cannibal Corpse and Napalm Death. And so when it came time to make the movie, there's a scene where he's in this heavy metal concert, and Jim Carrey, apparently, from what I read, Jim Carrey was like, let's see if we can get Cannibal Corpse to do it.
Oh, it was
and
his
Cannibal
idea.
Corpse was like, sure. It was his idea because he was a fan of the band.
Phenomenal.
Crazy. That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway, here's the scene for people watching Ace Ventura. They got some Cannibal Corpse.
Hey, maybe I'll give you a call sometime. Your number still 911? Oh, righty then. Excuse me, it's Greg here. Thank you.
It's great because you ever tried to have a conversation at a metal concert?
Yeah,
doesn't work.
Not a thing. Coming out of the mosh pit there.
Yeah.
So that was Hammer Smashed Face by Cannibal Corpse.
Now, was that Corpse Grinder?
No, that's Chris Barnes. He was before Corpse Grinder. So yeah, no neck girth on that one.
I was gonna say, because I was like, I know that's
Corpse.
I recognize that as Hammer Smashed Face, but I was like, that is not Corpse Grinder.
Yeah.
Unless he put on a ton of weight and a ton of neck between this episode and now.
That's so funny to me that Jim Carrey actually likes death metal. And, I've seen him on late night talk shows actually singing death metal. He's pretty good at it. And I know Stevie T did a video where he actually takes those interviews, and then he used them as samples, and he made a song out of it. Like he put his own tracks behind it.
Behind Jim Carrey doing death growling?
Yeah, it's really good too.
It is great. Definitely worth looking up.
But Jim, if you're watching, start a death metal band and grow your neck to extreme levels of girth too. That's my
I love that as a young actor. He said this is his first big role that he wasn't afraid to step up and say, "Hey, I got a creative idea here. Let's put death metal in."
I love how he rolls into the room too. He's like, right, this is normal, just a crazy death metal band. Everybody's grooving, where at the time, that would have been considered so extreme. I mean, even now, but back in the early 90s, death metal was like people, were very shocked by it. My parents included.
Especially like that level of extreme death metal. I mean, you had bands, death metal bands in the 80s, like Death, but like Cannibal Corpse took it to like a whole nother level.
Yeah, I mean, extreme. We should do another extreme metal episode because that's such a fascinating genre. How far people have taken things there,
and the fact that this was able to like get into such a, I mean, it's a major motion picture, from the major studio. And so how many millions of people were exposed to Cannibal Corpse because of this movie? A lot. And I think that's fantastic.
They probably couldn't believe they got asked. So like, of course we're going to do it. You know, some great exposure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, so, you know, this kind of like started a thing or something because then 1995. So Ace Ventura was probably what, 93, 94, somewhere right in there.
Yeah. That's right.
1995, the movie Mortal Kombat, based on the video game, comes out. And now we've talked about this soundtrack before. This was my first introduction to Fear Factory, was because of the Mortal Kombat soundtrack.
Yes.
It was my first introduction to Typo Negative.
Was Typo in there? I didn't
realize.
I forgot about
Typos.
that.
They're on the soundtrack. He's not in the movie.
Which song? Which song was it?
Oh, good question.
Do you have the clip? Maybe not.
No, so the clip. So in the movie itself, they play a lot of the songs in the background. But they actually, one of the bands, a much lesser known metal band called Mother's Day Out, they actually had them come and perform for a similar scene. It's the introduction to one of the characters, Sonya, and it takes place in a club with a death metal band playing, and it's Mother's Day Out. So we'll check this out.
Let's go! 60 seconds to target. Jax, is the perimeter secured?
Lockdown tight.
It better be. I want Kano.
Trust me, Sonya.
I trust one person on this planet, Jax. You're talking to her.
Kind of hard to hear, but I love it how like they're like beating people up, they're running through with guns, and like nobody in the metal concert cares.
Yeah,
because that's normal at a metal concert.
She was into the mosh pit.
Yeah.
Is this the Mother's Day Out, Luke?
Yeah. Blows the guy away. Party keeps going.
Where's Kano? Where is
Oh, yeah.
Some good metal.
So now I will tell you, so I mean, good on them. They're like, hey, let's get another metal band here. Now, Mother's Day Out didn't really go anywhere, but then they released perhaps one of the best soundtracks of all time. I mean, so much like we were saying, like Fear Factory's Zero Signal was on here.
Zero Signal is a great track. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so I just pulled it up here. I mean, you got this KMFDM was.
Oh, I remember that band.
Yeah. They did some stuff.
They're like
I don't know how far they went.
German industrial metal. Them along with Rammstein.
Techno.
Used to get grouped together, but Rammstein, really took off, and they didn't.
Oh, Buckethead was on it.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, Buckethead did some, Sister Machine Gun. Typo Negative was Blood and Fire was the name of the song. And then Napalm Death, Twist the Knife, Slowly was on here. So, I mean, I remember getting this soundtrack and just listening to it over and over and over again. So much good stuff on that album. At the time,
that was probably blowing your mind, right? It was like an introduction to heavier stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And a compilation like that where you could experience a bunch of bands.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
it was like a mini Spotify.
Right, exactly. Because I had just gotten into Dream Theater at this point. But Dream Theater aren't, necessarily that heavy. They're not extreme metal. And so like I'd heard like there's other stuff out there other than like Bon Jovi and Scorpions and Def Leppard.
Yeah.
And then this guy, I heard I remember Zero Signal by Fear Factory. It just completely shattered my entire concept of how heavy music could be.
Yeah.
And
Fear Factory is still to this day, they're heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. So leave it to a major motion picture, pop culture to expose me to some fantastic heavy metal. In 1995, when grunge had already taken off and metal was seemingly being pushed even further underground.
Right, because Nevermind was 93.
Oh, 91 maybe?
Oh, I think you're right. It was earlier.
Yeah, I think it was 91.
Yeah, okay. So grunge was well off the ground at that point.
Well, and video games were exploding at this time. So the fact that now you're taking and people were taking video games and making movies of them. Well, this was like a groundbreaking idea. And then of course Mortal Kombat just goes hand in hand really with metal. The game.
It does. Because the game was extremely controversial for its violence, right?
Yeah,
the finishing moves here. Exactly.
Which character was that? The yellow
Scorpion, maybe?
Scorpion, yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah, he get you with his claw and then pull you over and rip your head off and stuff. I mean, it was pretty violent at the time. And
dude, that's like an audio meme. Now, I if I'm watching podcasts or something, I'll hear that. The get over here. It's crazy.
Huge cultural meme.
Yeah.
Huge. Yeah. And so I love the fact that, metal was, it was still there, even though, you probably weren't hearing much of this on the radio. It's there. And it was finding ways into the pop culture mainline. So then we had another movie that was, based on a couple of Saturday Night Live characters that also revolved around rock and roll and heavy metal. Wayne's World. Wayne and Garth, man.
Wayne's World. Party time.
Party time.
Excellent.
Excellent. Yeah, these guys, I mean, this was a big deal. I mean, the Saturday Night Live was huge in the 90s. And so they made two movies, Wayne's World 1 and 2.
And that's where Mike Myers came from, right? Saturday Night
he was
Live,
a stand-up, and then he got into Saturday Night Live. And then from there, most of his movies, honestly, were from skits fleshed out in Saturday Night Live.
Huh.
And so anyway, let's check out the clip of when Wayne and Garth meet Alice Cooper in the original Wayne's World.
This is
sorry, lady. I'm sorry. No, you got past. All right, come on. I'm sorry. No, I can't let you.
I like it. They're like, no, ladies.
Yeah,
ladies, you can't come backstage.
Not the ladies.
Alice, is this cool?
Yeah, come on in.
Sorry to bother you, but
come on
we
in,
had
boys.
to come and tell you how much we really enjoyed the show, didn't we, Garth?
Oh,
He's
thanks.
got starstruck.
We're not mental or anything, so don't be afraid. My name is Wayne, and this is Garth.
Nice to meet you guys.
He just can't.
So, do you come to Milwaukee often?
Well, I'm a regular visitor here, but Milwaukee has certainly had its share of visitors. The French missionaries and explorers were coming here as early as the late 1600s to trade with the Native Americans.
In fact, isn't Milwaukee an Indian name?
Yes, Pete, it is. Actually, it's pronounced Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land.
I was not aware of that.
I think one of the most interesting aspects of Milwaukee is the fact that it's the only major American city to have ever elected 3 socialist mayors.
Does this guy know how to party or what? Huh?
He's just like,
okay.
Well, we gotta get going.
No. Stick around. Hang out with us.
Cool. Yeah, we'll stay and hang around with us. With Alice Cooper.
We're not worthy! We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
he puts his hand out to
Kiss the hand.
What I love about this is its portrayal of metal as sophisticated, knowledgeable people, right? Like there's the show of metal, And then there's the people behind it aren't these mindless zombie goons, right?
Yeah, it's the same idea with classical and metal, as a fusion. Like it's that sophistication with unsophistication. Yep.
Yes.
It's great.
And I mean, this like harkens back to D. Snyder testifying in front of Congress.
Yep.
So he comes in his ripped jean jacket, and everybody's expecting him to just be an idiot. And then he's incredibly cogent, and he lays out fact. Yeah, very, very articulate. And so it's doing the same thing here with Alice Cooper. He knows all this history, and he's interested in the politics of and the dynamics of the different cultures that met in this town. I mean, so it's brilliant stuff. But
again, Mike Myers brought the entertainment, and so that's what made his thing work. Just like with Spinal Tap, and with any band, I'm just gonna keep beating this drum because people ask me about this all the time. Like, how do I, become successful as a band? First of all, don't start a band. But two, if you do, make it entertaining on some level. Like work on your charisma, your personality, your presentation. It's all of those kinds of things that are going to get you into pop culture like we're seeing here.
You got to have that whole package. That's what everyone's looking for. Whole package.
The whole
I'm grabbing my package right now, but you can't see it. So just imagine in your mind. I think that's what Beethoven had on the top of his sheet music stand too. So
yeah, I'm telling you.
It could be. Yeah. I mean, you did have like Sigmund Freud in that movie, and Freud was all about, the phallic.
You said the song was called Play With Me.
Oedipus Rex or something you called it.
Yeah. Okay, we'll fast forward just a little bit and hit one more show. And this one, to Shred's point, this is one that started really like as satire, as it wasn't a real band, and yet the music was so interesting and good and popular that it ended up becoming a real band. So you've probably guessed I'm talking about Death Clock from the show Metalocalypse. So Metalocalypse comes along on Adult Swim, and it's this animated show about this death metal band that becomes like, what is it, like the eighth most powerful entity in the universe or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it is.
Probably
they're
the
like
666 most.
Yeah,
it could be.
Or you could bump it up to 69.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like these absurd antics that this band gets into, but the guys, it might have even just been one guy, I'm not sure, that were writing the music to the fictional band Death Clock. People started like downloading the show for the songs, and so then he was like, "We need to like go on a tour," and so they did like this limited tour. And it like sold out. Like it was really popular. So they were like, okay, this is a real thing. Death Clock's a real band now. So anyway, here's a clip from the show Metalocalypse, and it's Murderface's birthday. And they do a death metal cover of Happy Birthday. Check this out.
To the party. And as you well know, no party is complete without a birthday party clown. And we have one of the finest rock and roll clowns around. So please put it in your hands. Here comes the rock and roll clown.
Dr. Roxo, the rock and roll clown.
Check. Murder. Slash. That's good. Many years ago today, something grew inside of your mother. That thing was you.
I love it.
Out of life.
Impressive leaping ability from that lead singer and brutal vocals.
Yes. Yeah. No, I mean, it's heavy stuff for sure. And incredibly popular show. And so much so that the band it materialized. It became real, out of this show. Again, just showing the power of metal is there.
And this is more extreme stuff,
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Is that death metal? I mean, it's almost like neoclassical death metal or something.
I don't.
It's wild.
Would you put
make
Death
a new
Clock
genre
in the neoclassical?
They some of their tracks are more classically inspired, but
that could be. I'm actually not super familiar with a lot of their
the
stuff.
Swiss Scott guy or whatever. People always sometimes people will say I look like Swiss Scott, which I don't think is quite accurate. My hair isn't blonde enough, but he does a lot of like the sweepy, shreddy Ingvar J. Malmsteen stuff. I don't know if he likes donuts though. Maybe.
I don't know.
Who knows? I think it's cool that. Oh, go ahead.
No, do it.
I was
do
just
it,
say,
Pete.
I think what's cool is that like these people pitch these ideas. There's all these different things we've looked at, and there's there's metalheads everywhere, right? I think there's this idea that metalheads are like one group of people and they don't interface with society. But it's like the point in all of these examples is, and there's even more to come, like metal pops up all over because it's not just for a select few, right? Like these are people out, and there's always kind of been this idea that metal, you're weird or you're too far out there, or there's something wrong with you. I feel like that's kind of been pushed on there, but then like here's metalheads in all these industries like making content and pushing the metal in there. I mean, Metalocalypse, like here's a whole show. So it's going to be based around a metal band, and someone at the studio was like, yeah, we're going to put money into that. And that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It may not get as much like commercial attention, but I think the people that are into it are probably more dedicated and loyal.
Yeah.
And for sure.
Well, with a show dedicated like this, for sure. But like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure or Wayne's World, that's like all these people. Now they maybe not everyone that watched it got into metal, but the point is that's more mainstream popular stuff that metal is in because somebody was like, metal is great. It should be in here when featured.
No, that's right. 100%. And metal really does. I mean, it can fit into so many different platforms or into so many different types of content. For instance, so our next feature here is the great Marty Friedman. This guy,
MFer. That's great initials to have.
Yeah, that MFer, man. So he's playing with Megadeth. He's doing like some wild neoclassical stuff with Becker there back in the 80s, and then he like moves to Japan, and then he starts like doing all kinds of stuff. So he's writing music for video games. He's writing music for anime. So here's a clip. He apparently wrote all the music for this video game called Sonic and the Black Knight. And it's a Sonic the Hedgehog like RPG or something like that. I'd actually never heard of this game, but it's a Sonic game. So let's check out a little clip of that music.
Well done. And thank you, Sonic. With this scabbard, I can erase my grandfather's greatest mistake.
Very classical here.
You wrote this part?
Yeah, apparently.
I shall make this kingdom eternal.
Sonic, get back!
I mean,
like
it's
this.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
he
like
gets in.
modern composer 20th century type stuff. I'd like to hear more of that from MFer. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Would love to. Well, yeah, no, in terms of his video game stuff, I mean, it is much more heavy into like classical composition.
Well, and I think that's partly why he went to Japan, is he wanted to broaden what he was doing. He didn't want to be in a box in what he was, just playing live and kind of making the same type of albums. So he wanted to experiment, but I like how he brings metal into places. I feel like a lot of video games have this kind of epic, but then also hard rock, heavy metal almost sound to them.
They do. They do, yeah.
Which I believe he's done some, right?
Yeah, now anime is a little more traditional for him. Like, for instance, we have this clip here. This is from a Sailor Moon. I think it's from. I don't think it's from the show. I think it's from like a Sailor Moon movie.
Yeah,
or this is like the OST or something. But he doesn't write all the music for this. This is actually a Japanese group, but he does like the solos in it. So you can check that out here. This is called Moon Pride.
What about the mini skirts here? Whoa. Marty sounds so unique. Like he really doesn't have, you're like, oh, that's Marty, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. He holds the pick so weird when he plays. If you ever like pay attention to how he plays, you're like, what are you doing, bro?
Yeah.
Like it's so strange. And that's part of maybe why he sounds unique. But I guess the point I'm trying to make here is try to sound unique. It's a good way to go.
It is a good way to go.
I think more like that MF or Marty.
MFer. He's killing it. I feel like this is common though in like anime. You'll be watching along, and all of a sudden I'll be like, "Wow, there's a guy just like shredding in the background." And it'll be like the background song will just be like a dude shredding. There's like a lot of that. So I can understand why he moved to Japan, or maybe he's been the influence of why that is so much.
Maybe I should move to Japan and become a god like Marty. It's like everybody just loves you over there for shredding. In the United States, like it like works against you. It's like a detractor. But in Japan, I don't know. They're into it.
Yeah, I watched a really interesting interview with Tosin Abasi and the guy. Oh, I can't. Misha Mansour.
Oh yeah, from Periphery.
Yeah, from Periphery. And they were talking about that. And Misha's point was, he's like, look, you're considered more legit in metal if you're like the struggling, starving artist. It's like once you make it, it's like that's what selling out is all about. So he's like, in the metal community, it's like you're taken more seriously if you're the tortured artist that's struggling
in Japan.
And so no, he was talking about in America. Oh. And so that's where like I think that there is an element to that. Like you're considered more legit if you're underground. And then it's like if you do what Metallica did and you go like the super popular route by like toning down your metal and going more pop and that kind of stuff. That's like, okay, then you're not really metal. You know what I mean? And so what you're saying is like, yeah, here in the US, you are kind of like, I don't know, looked down upon by like being super good at shredding and, having amazing recording skills and all this, because that's like an element of like, you're past that tortured, starving artist thing. I don't know. It was an interesting conversation that they were having.
Yeah. I think another element is it's just complex. And, for people that are average and are exposed to average media, a lot of notes equals just harder to understand, harder to get into. That's why it's so funny. Yeah, like Pete mentioned, having the guy shredding in the anime in the background, like that's very rare. You don't hear that so much in United States media. But in Japan, they're like, I don't know, they're trained to appreciate that kind of stuff or something.
Well, I think they value skill very highly in Japan. So if you're highly skilled at it, whatever you're doing, that's looked upon very highly.
Plus, they make good sushi over there.
If you're like, how many times do they fold those knives when they're making those ridiculous knives?
A lot.
It's like thousands, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like not anybody can just get a piece of metal and make a knife. You know what I mean? It's like anybody can, but the Japanese can. The high level of skill is appreciated.
The idea of craftsmanship too, like a lot of Japanese people. Okay, I'm generalizing a little bit, but like those people you're talking about, people making knives or playing music or they just dedicate their life to that. Like they started with making knives, and I think a lot in America we value like ability to do whatever you want and jump around, and when every choice is a choice, you can't master anything, right? So I think that's part of.
That's real talk.
You have to make that decision. If you want to master something, you got to put the time in.
So, Luke, do we have, the Bill and Ted? Don't they come back at some point? Do we have
what do you mean
of that? Back? Like the more recent one? Because you mentioned Tosin Abasi.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
I didn't get one from the new one. But Tosin Abasi was involved in the new one, right?
Yeah, I think he did the guitar parts. Like Steve Vai did in the first one. He took the mantle. So
okay, yeah. Well, that would have been perfect if I'd had a clip from the Face the Music, because we'd have come full circle. I do have one more clip, and this one, in my opinion, I thought so. We're gonna rewind here to 2005. This is a personal story of mine, but millions and millions and millions of people saw this. I don't watch football, or not football. What's the NBA? Basketball.
Basketball. That's how much we don't watch
that's
it.
How much.
So I don't watch basketball, but of course I have friends that are very, very much into sports. So I remember, and apparently it was 2005. I didn't remember what year it was. I was at a buddy's house, and he was throwing an NBA Finals party, and I wasn't paying attention to the game at all. And I hear on the TV Nightwish being played, and I'm like, "Who's playing Nightwish?" Nobody there knew who Nightwish was.
Yeah,
and sure enough, it was the sports team, the San Antonio Spurs, 2005, used Nightwish's song "Planet Hell"
not
as
like
their intro
famous
music
songs. Yeah, I would say
surprise.
Planet Hell was not one of their most well-known songs either.
No, but it fits perfectly what's going on. So I found the 2005 championship game. And so here is a clip. And what's really funny is like they're introducing the other team, which I think was the Detroit Pistons, actually. A lot of us live in Michigan. So and they're like, oh, it's number 18, this guy, number 12, this guy. And then the music starts for the San Antonio people. And just like, it's so incredibly dramatic. This is what metal is all about. So let's check out this clip. 2005 NBA championships.
And dance hitter from Virginia Union, number 3, Ben Wallace.
Yeah, like generic, like beat, something going here.
Yeah, just a beat. Oh my.
Goes black.
So this is what I hear. I'm like, whoa, I know this song, but nobody else does. Where's this coming from?
Showing the team on the Jumbotron. This is heavy Nightwish too, not their melodic stuff.
Right.
Y'all ready for this?
I love when it goes.
And then,
Western Conference champion.
and then it goes into like the introduction. But you want to talk, I mean, this is what metal does, right? Did you see how much energy and how much dramatic action there was to that music? It's like
what
nobody cares.
If Tumos played organ, you know, he was like the player, and then he had the big skull pipes going up.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool AF. You should totally do that,
now,
Tumos, if you're watching.
They cut that up to where there were no lyrics. That's the song. It's like "Save Yourself a Penny for the Ferryman." Marco just like nails it, and it's so powerful.
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't know what the story behind that. Like somebody on the team was like, "Oh my gosh, you got to play this song. It'd be such a great opener." I don't know the story behind it at all.
That's what I'm saying. The metal people are everywhere. There's somebody that influenced that decision, you know, sitting somewhere and saying, "Hey, I listened to this band called Nightwish. You should check it out for the opening."
Unless they just submitted it to a sound library and then nobody even knew like what it was. They're just like, "That's cool. Let's choose that." Hopefully it wasn't that though.
Hopefully it wasn't. Although if it was, it just proves how powerful metal is. You hear it and you're like, that's energetic. I need that to introduce, because here's the thing.
Either way, metal wins.
Yeah.
Metal
wins.
I mean, the NBA, especially back like early 2000s, that was probably the most popular sport in the United States. Maybe football.
I think
I don't know. Football. Yeah, football, baseball, basketball, they're all like super popular in the United States. And so for a Finnish symphonic metal band to like find its way into the finals of one of the biggest sports in the United States, to me, I was like,
it's a big
2005. I'm like, metal made it. Metal is about to surge. It's going to take over the world now. And it kind of has, but again, it's not flashy. It's metal it doesn't want the spotlight on it. So it's never going to be like, you know, Justin Bieber levels of popularity. But it is, as of last year, it was worldwide, it was the fastest growing genre of music. It wasn't the largest, but it was the fastest growing.
There is one more clip you missed that has to be put in here from Airheads, because it's just too good.
That's
if you
right.
want to introduce it, you can.
Fraser.
So this was 1994. So this was in that same time period. Wayne's World, Ace Ventura, Mortal Kombat, 1994, and this was a comedy. This might have even been Rob Reiner. I'm not sure. Don't take me at that one. Anyway, comedy about, you know, this metal band trying to like make it, and they end up accidentally taking this record studio or a radio studio hostage. And so in this scene, they the cops send someone up. They want to meet with a record producer because they want a record deal, and then they'll let the hostages go. And so the cops send up who is supposedly a record producer to talk to these guys, and the metalheads put this guy through a litmus test. And so let's check out Airheads, Brendan Fraser.
Why are you taking the big David Lee Roth Van Halen split?
What do you mean?
What kind of question is that? What side did you take, Halen or Roth?
Van Halen. He's a cop.
Oh,
Wait
come on,
a
guys.
second.
Oink, oink. It's strictly a judgment call. They sold a lot of records after Dave left the group. Come on, one more question. Hey, come on, cheers, one more.
Right. Who'd win in a wrestling match, Lemmy or God?
Lemmy.
God.
Wrong, dickhead. Trick question. Lemmy is God.
There's something I gotta tell you.
What?
I was a geek in high school. I had really short hair. I played Dungeons and Dragons. I had a bug collection. I ate like boogers. My name's not Chaz. It's Chester. And I understand if you don't love me anymore.
Brutal.
I play D&D too. I was editor of the school magazine.
Oh, there he is.
There's Lemmy. Cameo.
There he
Wear
is.
corduroy pants.
Yeah.
I wonder what the origin story is with Lemmy being God. When did that start?
Good question. Especially like in this movie, in the credits, he's listed as Lemmy Van Motorhead. He's not even listed as Lemmy Kilmister or Kilmeister, however you pronounce his last name.
Yeah.
So where that came from, but clearly 1994, it was a thing.
Trick question. Lemmy is God.
Yeah. That was a funny.
And then Lemmy's in it.
It's a really interesting idea where they're holding the record execs hostage, basically, or bargaining with them based on having these hostages, because they're like, listen, otherwise we're not going to get any exposure.
Yeah.
Bands today they have a similar plight. How do we get exposure?
Yeah.
It's way easier now, though. You just have to, make good content and use Instagram and YouTube and whatever else. But back then,
you don't have to take hostages in a radio studio these days. And what's funny is, so I mean, obviously we cut some sections out of that clip, but part of what the record producer says is he's like, hey, I'm going to give you guys a contract. And they're like, you haven't even heard our music. And he's like, it doesn't matter. Look at the crowd you have. Right. And so it's like, it's exposing the whole thing. Like the record company, it's not about the music. It's about the show, right? It's about how many people you can entertain. It's the sales. It's the numbers.
It's a business is what it is. It's a business. And if you're an up and coming artist, you have to be thinking in those terms. If you don't have a business, you don't have anything. Even if your music's great, right? But if you don't know how to market it, you're effed.
Well, that's the thing. And, it's part of the reason why pop music today is what it is and metal music today is what it is because pop music literally doesn't care about the music. It's all about the imagery and the sales. So they just do whatever they have to do to make the sale. Metal, they are focused on the music. Now they could be more popular than they are, right? But they're also like that's secondary to the music itself. Whereas in pop music, the music doesn't matter. That's secondary to the image. So
are you telling me that Cardi B doesn't pour over her compositions late at night? Her Wappian motifs, trying to make them just perfect.
Well, I don't know if you guys saw it, but
Luke. Breaks my heart.
Olivia Rodrigo just today announced that she's giving writing credits to Paramore because her song is so similar to the Paramore song. Rick Beato did a video on this.
Busted her, yeah.
Yeah, and Rick was like, I don't know what's going on with this Rodrigo song. It is Paramore. And he's like, the Paramore one's actually better. And then it was just announced today that they're giving Paramore co-writing credits on the song.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
That
ridiculous.
Is funny.
They don't care about the music. I mean, it's steal somebody else's music. It's literally about the image in pop music today.
Well, it's like a balance, right? You have to have, they go too hard on the entertainment side of things. Ideally, you have quality music and entertainment and image and all that. But yeah, pop kind of is imbalanced. They try to cheat and just go all image, all entertainment. But if you're going to be classic, if you're going to be remembered long term, try to get both of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, guys, this was a fun journey through, when metal ruled the earth. Let us know though in the comments, like what. Certainly, there must.
What did we miss?
There's got to be 1,000 examples of when metal popped up in pop culture, famous movies, whatever. So let us know what instances of metal sneaking into the pop culture world that you remember that we did not touch on here. And yeah, until next time, guys, remember that the world ends with you, so keep it metal.